Welcome back to Ginger's Journey. I'm Dangerous Ginger, and thank you for coming and spending some time with me today. Before anything else, if you like my channel, please hit the like button below and subscribe, and you'll get updated every time I post a new video. And I would love to get your feedback. But on to today's topic, and this one has been on my mind for a while. I've been dealing with backlash from something that happened a while ago. It's actually been years, and it really made me think that most people don't understand why people stay in abusive situations. And it's part of why we do victim blaming. And today's topic is exactly that. It's abuse and why I stayed in my abusive relationships. And this one specifically relates to partners. And by partners, I mean not necessarily romantic entanglements or strictly sexual entanglements, but those are factors involved. I really don't actually consider myself that type of romantic, so calling them romantic relationships doesn't really work for me. But yeah, so here we go. Abuse and why I stayed. So I stayed because I didn't know any better. I had friends for years telling me to walk away. I had friends for years telling me that my one partner was basically the devil incarnate, and it was just because they were just as confused as I am about existing and about life, and I thought they could do no wrong. Let me also say that this relationship that I'm talking about specifically was the one when I was 16 years old, when I got with my partner in high school, and we were together for 7 years. 7 long years in a monogamous relationship that was very strained. And it started out great. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great times when you're with your partner. Of course there are. You wouldn't be with your partner unless there were good times. And I loved being with them. I loved it so much that when people tried to tell me that things he was doing to me were wrong and his behaviors were appropriate or inappropriate or just bad, because there were times where in public situations this partner would actively embarrass me. This partner would yell at me in public. This partner would be so cruel. Let's put it that way. He would be so cruel. They would be so cruel that it eventually became normal in my head. I thought that was normal behavior in a relationship. I really did. I didn't know any better. It was maybe my 3rd relationship ever. Like, ever. I didn't date much before him, and he knew that, and I knew his partners before me. I was good friends with his partners before me, and yeah, I didn't think there was anything wrong. He could do no wrong. He was perfect, and he made it clear to me that he was perfect. I was the fuck up. I was the one who was screwing up. We would fight. We would get into these verbal arguments so loud and so bad that I usually ended up crying at the end of them. But it didn't matter to me, not in the situation. And hindsight's 2020. I recognize now that that was abusive. That was straight up abuse. He was verbally humiliating me. He was yelling at me in front of my friends, or not even in front of my friends, but they could hear him yelling at me when we were down in the basement, which, like, if they have to use their voice so loud and I feel so unsafe, why am I with them? And this persisted for 7 years. Yeah, and I stayed. I stayed because I didn't know any better. I really didn't. And I thought it was normal. It's a type of brainwashing when you're in an abusive relationship. Most people don't talk about that. Like, you feel powerless when you're in those relationships. And some abusers will take advantage of it. Most will, if that's their state of mind. They will take advantage of the fact that you don't have confidence, you don't have self-esteem, that you don't have boundaries. I had no boundaries when I was younger. None whatsoever. I was a delinquent. I was a teen delinquent, and oh, he loved and hated that about me. Throughout the relationships, there were highs. We would have some of the most amazing experiences. We would go to the best restaurants. He would shower me with gifts. He would make me feel like I could do no wrong. And then on the flip side, he had this way of just using his words and making me feel like shit. Completely like shit. Like I was the lowest of the low. I was the scum of the earth. And looking back on it, we were both pretty shitty people in that relationship. And I'll get into it in another video about how I left these relationships, but I'm not going to get into it now. I'm just going to talk about why I stayed. The next relationship after this one, with the highs and lows in 7 years, he and I were talking about eloping. We were talking about being together forever, having 6 kids, and kind of having like a 1950s lifestyle, which even back then didn't sit well with me. And I went against my instincts because I thought this is all I deserved. I thought he was the only person who could love me because I didn't love myself. I can tell you that right now. I did not love myself in that relationship. Okay, so fast forward 7 years. I'm out of that relationship, and I have a hoe phase, a really strong hoe phase for about a year. And I think it was partially because I knew the relationship was bad for both of us, and I knew it was bad for me because he had. And then I get with another person, another guy. In this case, most of my abusers are AMAB, or assigned male at birth. And I get with my next partner, and we're in a polyamorous relationship with some things that I thought I would be okay with, and compromises and everything. And yeah, turns out not so much. This person was a full-on alcoholic, and whenever they got drunk, they blacked out, and they did things to me that they wouldn't remember, including raping me. Having learned from my 7-year relationship to no longer tolerate these behaviors, I called them out. And this partner, we had some amazing times together. We worked at the same place during Halloween season. We were together every couple of months because I was going to college, and he was just he was amazing. I didn't think there was anything wrong. And then I saw him for what he was doing, and his addiction really was the end of our relationship. Because he raped me one night when he got drunk, and he didn't remember the next day. And after that incident, I really tried to leave him. I tried multiple times, and he just wouldn't go. And eventually, it finally ended It finally ended because he finally decided to leave me alone. That's basically how it ended. And during that time, actually, between both of these relationships, I was with another person. In between going from my 7-year relationship to the non-alcoholic relationship, I was also with the person who I got with at 14. If you don't know the story about that, please go to my other video about abuse and how it affected me. Part 1, the first one, and that'll go way into more depth about that person. But for this video, I'm going to explain why I kept going back to this person and kept falling into this line of abuse with this person in particular, just like the other two. And in this case, in that between time, I had cheated on my partner who I was with for 7 years with this person to get out of that abusive relationship. Yeah, I know I'm a terrible person. There was no other way for me to convince myself to leave unless I had an out. And I'll get into that more in my next video. But yeah, so I cheated on the 7-year abusive relationship partner with the guy I was with since the age of 14 for a year before I left that relationship. And I stayed with him that whole year while I was transitioning into the relationship with the alcoholic. And yeah, even when I got into the relationship with the alcoholic, he knew about the guy I was with from the time I was 14, and he didn't want me to see him anymore. Which in my mind didn't make any sense because I also considered this person a really good friend, but I would sleep with him. And we had this really confusing friendship where we would fuck around, and sometimes he would treat me like a partner and sometimes he would just treat me like a friend. It depended on his mood. And I got why my partner was uncomfortable with me seeing the guy I was seeing with, almost 25. Because he had this way with words that just drew you in. He was a wordsmith. And that is one of my biggest turn-ons in my life. It still is to this day. If you know a way with words, be it with something that I know nothing about or something that I have some knowledge about, but if you know how to put them out there in a way that just draws you in, he could do that. And he was so good at making me feel like I deserved the world. He was good at that. He knew how to make me feel like the best person ever. Though on the flip side, this is the important part, on the flip side, if I did anything wrong, if I contradicted him, if I pointed out his faults, I was to blame for his faults. I was the reason he was alone in the world. I was his only friend. I was the only person he wanted to have a polyamorous harem with. And that just didn't sit well with me. Being the only person to somebody is so unhealthy. And that's something I recognize is a pattern with, at least in my case, my abusers. All of them made me feel like I was the only person they needed in the world. All of them. And I'm just doing the 3 because those were the most impactful for me. And like, I stayed because they knew how to make me feel important. They knew how to make me feel like I belonged with them and to them, and nothing else in the world mattered. Like, my wants and needs were their wants and needs, which isn't true. And to this day is the biggest lie in the world. You can't, well, I can't make myself fit somebody else's box. I need my own box, and I need to break out of my own box. I don't like being in a box. I don't like being boxed in, and that's something they did very well, was put me in this perfect little box. and I couldn't leave. If I left, they mistreated me, sometimes intentionally. I feel like with the guy I was with when I was 14, it was completely unintentional. I recognize that, but it was still abusive behavior, and it still is inexcusable. Just because you have trauma in your past does not excuse being a shitty person in your current day life. You got to take responsibility at some point. You got to be responsible for yourself, and that's what this is for me. These videos are me taking responsibility for my decisions because it's my response to them that people judge me on. And I stayed. And I would have stayed if I hadn't had friends who didn't bolster me, if I didn't have the opportunities to leave those relationships. I would still be stuck there to this day. I'd still be friends with them. I know it. Like, I recognize that. And I'm this is really weird, but I believe in multiverses, and I bet there is somewhere out there in some sort of reality I'm still friends with them. Or I maybe married one of them, or I didn't get the hysterectomy and I had babies with one of them. And it's just like, in this reality, in my reality right now, I have to take responsibility for what I do. And I'm not responsible for what they put me through. I am not responsible for what they put me through. If you have been through what I've been through, you're not responsible for what they did to you. You are responsible for what you do forward when you can leave safely. You are responsible for your behaviors after you leave. And that took me a while to learn too. And I'm also going to say in this video, I apologize for those who met me in that year after I left those relationships, because I was not a good person. And I apologize. Like, you met me at a weird time in my life, and I know apologies don't make up for some of my shitty behaviors, but like, I wasn't intentionally trying to hurt anyone, and I know I did. And I recognize that, and I've continued to learn since then. And I still have my issues. Like, goodness knows I still have my issues, but it's like this. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't made those decisions. And I like who I am today. My demon ass loves being myself, this non-binary, polyamorous, pansexual sex worker who used to be a nurse. Like, I am proud of who I became today, and anyone who's been in situations like me, I believe in you. I believe you 100%. And I trust your judgment to be able to leave when you can, because I know sometimes you just can't. I recognize that. You can't leave those situations safely. And I was lucky to be able to leave my situation when and how I did. And the fact that I'm still alive to tell these stories is a huge testament to how lucky I am, because not everyone in domestic abuse situations get this opportunity. So if you're in that situation, I am going to have numbers available. There was a number at the disclaimer at the beginning of this video, and there's going to be another number at the end of this video, and also down in the description box. I'm leaving information for those who are currently in or who have been in abusive situations. I'm leaving information down below for you. So yeah, so what I want you to take away today is that you have no control in abusive situations. That's why we stay, is because we have no control. And we're made to believe we have no control. It's essentially brainwashing. Number two, you have to forgive yourself for who you were in those relationships, because you didn't know better. You really didn't. And if you did know better, you couldn't escape. It wasn't safe. Trust me, that safety aspect is a huge reason why I stayed. I had to be safe before I could leave. I had to know that people I love and I wouldn't get hurt before I left. And number three, you are not responsible for their behaviors. That's the biggest one. You're not responsible for those who abused you. now that you're away from them, you are responsible for how you respond to the world. And please get help. Please seek out friends, therapists, psychiatrists. Reach out to people to help you deal with what you just went through, because you deserve the best and you deserve to love yourself at the end of the day. You deserve to wake up the next morning and just love who you are. And that's what I hope for you. And to end this, will you just vibe with me for a minute? Dance around, and we can just let go of this really intense topic. Just vibe with me for a minute, okay? Just let it all out. Just let it. All right, thank you for staying with me. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Know you're loved and worthy, and be safe. Make smart choices, and you are loved. I love you. Gigi.